Alright, so in continuation of my catch-up of Star Wars reviews, we've made it up to Star Wars The Bad Batch, which is a show that I actually really like, and for some reason, not too many people have talked about it. In fact, a lot of people that I listen to on YouTube haven't talked about it for some weird reason. It's actually a pretty good show in my opinion, for so many reasons, mainly the fact that it starts off where the Clone Wars ended, and where Revenge of the Sith ended, with Order 66, and that probably goes without saying, but if you didn't know anything about this show, they didn't have to start off with Order 66. They could have just started in the middle of the Civil War, when the Empire's already been ruling for so many years, but I think the way they did it for this show was an exceptionally good idea, because not only is focusing on the Empire's rule an intense time period to focus on, but it's even more intense when you're focusing on the first few hours, days, months of the Empire's reign. It's a very interesting time to focus on, more so than anything you would get from, say, Rogue One or Star Wars Rebels or the Endor show, which is actually really good. But for this show, I really appreciated that they went that route. And to be completely honest, if they hadn't, I guess this show would not be as interesting starting off. And yes, that is me saying that the Bad Batch squad is not that interesting on their own. I mean, they're fun. It's fun, seeing them and all their different abilities. Like, Hunter is very attuned to nature. Like, each member of the Bad Batch, excluding Echo, has their own ability. I guess you could say Echo has his own ability because of everything that happened in Season 7 of the Clone Wars, but each original member of the Bad Batch, that being Hunter, Crosshair, Wrecker, and what was the other guy's name? Tech. I don't know why I can't remember names in Star Wars. I'm usually pretty good with that. Anyway, they all have a unique ability that is just for them. Like, Tech is a genius. Wrecker is essentially a super soldier, and Hunter is, like I said, very attuned to nature. His senses are very heightened, and Crosshair, he's really good with a rifle, let's just say that. But on their own, they're not that interesting. If you put them in the right situation, like this first season of The Bad Batch did, then I think, yeah, it works out pretty well. Also, because this show explores what I've always wanted to see, which is what happened to the clone army in between Revenge of the Sith to A New Hope, or Star Wars The Clone Wars to Star Wars Rebels. However, it doesn't explore it too much. It's just something in the background, and I don't want to get into too many spoilers like I do with most of my videos, but how the show ends, you understand everything, you understand what happened, but it also means that the man responsible for giving the Empire one of the worst armies in cinematic history, simply because they can't shoot a single straight target, was Tarkin. Why?
Conscription soldiers could provide at half the cost.
Idiot. I'm not shooting on Tarkin, I'm just saying, for the sake of this show and this story, that was a stupid decision. Now, right away, one of my favorite additions to this show is Omega, or Omega, as she pronounces it. In true Star Wars fashion, we get a youngling that's been protected by and raised by person or persons that are older than them, wiser than them, and showing them the way, essentially. And just to bring this up, I know that a lot of people are getting tired of some of the tropes, I guess, and the recycling of certain plot points that Star Wars does. Like, this is a thing that has been happening since A New Hope was released, when Obi-Wan Kenobi was showing Luke how to be a Jedi. I understand it. I understand that people want new things, and Star Wars is doing new things, but this is Star Wars. It's actually, if you think about it, it's a pretty solid foundation in Star Wars history. Like, if you go back and watch, like, the prequels did it, Star Wars The Clone Wars did it with Anakin and Ahsoka, so I get it, but at the same time, I'm not too surprised that they went that route for this story. And to be honest, I really did like her presence in the show. You see her in the background of certain shots, And like there's this one shot where she's copying Hunter. All really good stuff in my opinion. But to be completely honest, this show doesn't always entertain me. It doesn't always keep me locked into the story because it's very episodic. And to compare it to The Mandalorian again, The Mandalorian does that much better than this show because The Mandalorian has fewer episodes each season. It has less episodes than this first season of The Bad Batch does. This season of The Bad Batch has, I think, 12 to 16 episodes, can't remember. I was right, 16. And this show is far more interesting and engaging when it's focusing on the Bad Batch being hunted by the Empire or bounty hunters, or when something is coming after them. That is when this show is really the most engaging. But whenever it goes off that, and it does quite a bit to them, you know, being bounty hunters themselves and going on, you know, separate missions, whenever it does that, it's okay if you're watching it, you know, week to week, but if you're trying to binge it, it's really not that interesting. I think if they have like fewer episodes, then maybe the next season would be better, so that those episodic episodes aren't so so there's not so many of them and it's not so overwhelming, because at a certain point when you have so many episodes that have nothing to do with the main story really, you tend to lose direction. You tend to forget what the show is actually about. And those enemies that are going after the Bad Batch, like the Empire and the bounty hunters, for example, Fennec Shand makes her appearance, her first animated appearance in the Star Wars universe from The Mandalorian to now The Bad Batch, and let me just tell you, Ming-Na Wen is brilliant. I love her in this show more than The Mandalorian, because we don't get why she's held up with so much esteem as this, you know, horrible bounty hunter. But yeah, in this show we really get to see it. But there is one character that I will never forget from this show, and that is Crosshair. He is another pretty great villain to the Star Wars universe, and the actor that voices him, along with all the other clones, D. Bradley Baker, does an amazing job here voicing Crosshair. He still has that, you know, that very recognizable clone voice, but it's very quiet and menacing. Not only that, he is a very compelling and interesting character, by far the most interesting character in this whole show. But besides that, that's all my thoughts on Star Wars The Bad Batch, or The Bad Batch. I can't remember what it was named. Is it called The Bad Batch or Star Wars The Bad Batch? I don't know. Anyway, in summary, it's an okay show. It goes like this, where the highs are really high, but the lows are just, you know, watchable. Anyway, I will see you in my next Star Wars review. I don't want to say what it is, because I don't think you're gonna expect it to be what it is. Like, you might have in mind what my next Star Wars video is going to be, but I guarantee you it won't be what you're thinking. Anyway, I will see you in that next Star Wars video. Her presence in the show, she was... fuck me dead. Her presence in the show the fuck. I can't speak. What the fuck? But it also means the man armies in history simply because...